think it's working.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Emerald Town Hall and AgTech21. How was this morning's field trip? Everybody get something out of that? It was a really interesting idea to basically invert the event on its head. If you hands up who's been to previous events here at Emerald, AgTech events. Okay, so it's good that we're able to mix it up a little. And really clever of the organisers to organise such a tremendous morning weather-wise, low humidity and reasonably cool. So a big congratulations to everybody who staged an exhibit out there in the field. Put your hands together for them all. A lot of them are represented around the room in the trade exhibit. A lot of very familiar faces. Great to see once again so many school students involved in this event, and particularly getting more and more involved in the AgTech, in the hardware and the software development. And I noticed that when we stopped by the drone area, that some of the students from Morris College are heavily involved in that, and pretty keen to set their sights on a career in AgTech, if not with drones. So that's fantastic. A couple of firsts this time, quite apart from the terrific weather. We are live streaming the event because obviously, as I mentioned earlier, this is a sellout event, so we physically couldn't have any more people here with us in the town hall, which meant there was a lot of other people in other parts of Queensland and in other parts of Australia who wouldn't be with us. But they can this time. They can go to the Central Highlands Development Corporation YouTube page and register and be part of it. And we will look forward to their feedback in the course of the afternoon. We are looking for their questions, their queries, and their response from our various panelists. And we're going to give you an opportunity to do the same here in the room, obviously. We've broken it up. If you've checked anybody actually read the program, have a bit of a look in the booklet. This one here that's in your bag. Nobody ever reads the instructions, do they? But look, if you have a thumb through that, you'll notice that the organisers have very thoughtfully built in some little breaks in today's schedule, because in years past we found there was so much good information coming at you that there scarcely wasn't any time to get around the room and meet these people who've set up these displays, who are pretty keen to talk to you as well. That's been rectified. There's going to be plenty of time for you in the course of the afternoon to get up, stretch your legs, and meet those people. So that's one of the interesting things. It's mercifully almost completely devoid of PowerPoint displays and speeches. There are a range of panel discussions, and we are kicking it off with another first, which is just a little fireside chat here on the stage in what I have to say is a pretty remarkable little lounge setup here. I'm not exactly sure where they found this gear here at Emerald, but it's pretty comfortable, isn't it, Emma Black?
It sure is.
Emma's with Black Box. You would have seen their display halfway down, and you could probably get to one or two of these in the course of the year, do?
We do. We get to a few.
And what's for you? What's the the important part about being here, and what do you get out of getting around and doing the tire kicking like everybody else does?
Sure. I think the highlight for us is being able to see in AgTech generally what the latest things are, what's on the horizon, and just networking, not only with industry, but with the other companies as well. And certainly learn a lot from each other and grow that network and build up each other.
And one of the things that sometimes surprises city slickers is that a lot of that heavy lifting has been done in regional parts of Australia and, dare I say, regional parts of Queensland, including your own operation.
Absolutely. So our company was born and bred out of the beef industry. And I guess we're a little different to some other AgTech companies in that we identified an issue within our industry and thought someone's got to do something about this. went out and got the development team and the right people in our team to make that happen. But I think the beauty of that is that you're then so embedded within your industry, working closely with industry, that you can really produce insights that can make a difference and solve an industry issue in a practical way.
And there seems to be enough bandwidth, and thank you, NBN, I know you have to display out there, but there seems to be enough bandwidth to run this kind of stuff, which may not be the case 5 years ago, and certainly wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. So connectivity, obviously there's still some issues around that, but it's getting easier. And in terms of AgTech in general, it's getting more accessible. There's a look at Beef Week 3 years ago to Beef Week this year. It was incredible, the difference in AgTech, and the market's been quite flooded now, I think, with opportunity. I think the real thing there to keep in mind is the practicality of that and having AgTech solutions that are capable and actually practical for producers to use. So there's a heap of data capture systems out there, but then taking that and turning it into something you can make practical and realistic decisions from really is a key focus for us.
Well, look, we want to drill down into the black box story in a moment, but it's probably worth, I think, everybody that's here knowing where your journey started. What was the attraction for you? I know you grew up in the bush, Western Queensland. Why study ag science? Did you have an end goal in mind, or did things occur to you as you went along?
Yeah, certainly. So the end goal definitely wasn't to start a software company by any means, but I grew up on a property west of Longreach, a merino sheep property. My parents are extremely passionate about ag, and particularly Dad taught me something really early on about listening and listening to other farmers, other producers. Even if we don't agree with what they're doing, we listen and learn, and that's something that I'm forever grateful he taught me, and I've carried that right through, I guess, my studies and what I've done with industry, and certainly all the way through into black box as well, but listening and acting on that. So I think had the passion early on, went and studied livestock science, wasn't really sure what I wanted to get into, went down the nutrition track. I think most young ag people want to get into nutrition in the livestock sector. So I did that for a little while, worked pretty closely with producers right across the north, sort of Emerald North, and saw a gap in the industry then around the understanding of the far end of the supply chain. So I ended up taking on an agricultural management graduate program just to learn about that end of the supply chain. So I was based at Lakes Creek in Rocky for a while and loved that opportunity. It was pretty tough, but learned a lot, and then saw a big opportunity to take that knowledge back out to industry. So I guess a pet passion of mine is understanding what happens on a farm and how that impacts the eating quality at the end of the day. We sometimes, we're very good at raising cattle, but we have to remember it's food we're producing. So I love working in that space now.
Quite early in the piece, you developed a bit of a passion for and interest in and an expertise in intercollegiate meat judging. For people who don't know what that is, give them a brief explainer and tell them why the worldwide fraternity that's involved in this thing is so important, has been so important for you.
Yeah, so there's a program run, it's called the Australian Intercollegiate Meat Judging Program, and you're taking me a few years back now, Pete, but
You're not that old, I can tell you, by comparison. I can remember pounds, shillings and pence, so yeah, go on.
So it's an Australian-wide program where they get university and high school students together, and the goal of it is to encourage high school students and university graduates to enter the meat and livestock industry. So it's a week-long program. You learn about what impacts meat quality, different career paths, because as we know, you can be a lawyer, there's so many options in ag. And they also teach you about beef, lamb and pork. So you've got to judge that, understand the supply chain and what happens on the supply chain, and and how that impacts it, but also be able to identify, what's a good carcass, what's a good co-beef. And then beyond that, they do take a team over to the US, or they did in the last couple of years, and compete over there. So it's huge worldwide beef judging, particularly in the US, as a professional development opportunity. And it's huge in Australia because there's a lot of companies now that if you've attended that program, they will give you a job interview because they know you've stepped out of your comfort zone and done that professional development. So I did it as a student, stayed involved for a number of years on the committee and coaching the Australian team as well. But I just think it's a great way to encourage or expose those students into the different careers in the industry.
And you meet some pretty handy contacts along the way who know a bit about the food chain.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, that was probably the biggest take home I learned from meat judging, was the value of networks. So I've met people there that are in very well, the likes of Jason Strong, Michael Crowley, just to name a couple of them, but got to know them as a student and stayed connected with them and a part of that network right through.
So Jason Strong, for those who don't know, is the current CEO, Managing Director of Meat and Livestock Australia. Big booster for judging. And Michael Crowley is his kind of right-hand man at MLA. And once again, a big booster for judging. And we'll talk about somebody else in a moment who's also been involved in that when we get to look at some of the other mentoring and networking that Emma's been able to do. Our partners crossed in 2013. Emma was at that time working for the department. I'm not sure exactly what the department was called in those days. It changes from year to year. But you were involved in helping organise, was it the Cloncarry Carcass competition or the
Richmond Beef Challenge?
The Richmond Beef Challenge.
Yeah.
It was a drought year, no challenge. But they had a party anyway, everybody. They had an event, a social event to get everybody together, and I was obviously entertainment is somewhat limited up there, all the budget was, so they got me in to do a bit of scripting. I just got back from Argentina, and it was a terrific opportunity for me to get back up there. I stayed with a lovely couple, Sally and Lindsay Allen, Julia Creed, and we had a great night. We talked about all the things. And I just thought it was a perfect example of how the bush can pivot very quickly. The competition, there was no competition, but it was really important that everybody who would have been involved hung together. And a few years later, they had to really hang together because when they got smashed by that terrible weather event.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got to correct myself. It was a McKinley Beef Challenge that year, but we used to run a number of them, and I guess it was a good way to get producers together. Everyone put a few steers in, we grew them out for a few months, took them to the abattoir. We used to take the producers to the abattoir so they could learn about that end of the supply chain. But the key thing out of that was that network and those little groups. There's 20 or 30 properties involved in each of the three groups, and they really helped each other through the drought, which is still up there. But I think from a mental health point of view and a social point of view, it's those types of groups that support those communities and that people still attend when they may not go into town just for a social event.
That was 8 years ago, can you believe that? And the penny dropped for you as you were moving through these various different functions, that data was starting to come at the beef industry and ag more generally, but the data was coming at beef producers at a phenomenal rate. It was then, and it's much more so now, like taking a sip from a fire hydrant, isn't it? If you saw an opening there.
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple of ways to look at it. So there's data collected on farm, there's data already collected along the supply chain that can be provided back in terms of carcass data. But kept seeing, I guess, over a number of years, a lack of ability to interpret that data and turn the PDFs or the Excel spreadsheets into something that you can make decisions from. My co-founder Shannon, I guess we've got different backgrounds. She's a vet. She was working in breeding, animal health through the Miller Genomics project, whereas I was more livestock nutrition, pasture management through the processor. So I guess saw it from both sides of the industry, and it was more industry coming to us saying, I've got 5 years of data on TSI or a crush slide system, how can I turn it into something I can make decisions from? And we thought, well, someone needs to do something about it, let's have a crack at it. And it's just grown from there. And I think it comes back to that industry networks, like you were talking about earlier, and building it with industry to make a solid solution for the industry.
Roll on a couple of years, we're up to 2015, and a bit of a seismic shift for you. You became involved with an organisation called the Platinum Primary Producers Group, and a really amazing standout identity in Australian agriculture, Australian agribusiness, Zan McDonald. How important was that?
That was life-changing for me. So the Xander McDonald Award was developed in memory of Xander, who was a very influential member of the Australian beef industry, extremely passionate about mentoring, educating young people and getting them into the industry, and really thinking outside of the box as well. So that award was developed in memory of Zan to really identify people in the industry that may not have achieved huge things yet, but they're completely driven, passionate, want to make a difference. Let's give them a leg up, mentor them, and see where they can go. So I was very fortunate to be the inaugural winner of that in 2015, and it's still growing to now, but it's an incredible award.
It's not just a bit of plastic though, is it? Tell everybody what you get to do as a Xander McDonald winner.
Yeah, it's certainly not about the bit of plastic. So the unique thing about the award is you get exposed to this incredible network of mentors. And I think they say to you, pick 3 or 4 people in the industry that you want to work with and go from there. But by the end of my 12-month program, I've worked with 32 mentors across Australia and New Zealand. And I think it's just an opportunity of a lifetime, because these guys identify that you want to learn. And as we know, Ag is very generous with their time if there's someone there that's keen to learn and take on an opportunity. So I got to, I guess, go into a lot of their businesses, understand how that worked, focused on business management and data across Australia and New Zealand. And I guess the thing I want to add around that was 6 years ago, but that mentoring is still ongoing now. And mentoring, I think there's so much more you can learn from mentoring than any course, because your mentors become your family and they're hard to find, and you end up developing a trust with them. And they help you to apply what you've learned back into your business, back into your industry. So extremely passionate about it, and still involved with the award now.
Now, Richard Rains, who you know very well, and which some of the people in this room might know, Richard has one of the keenest minds in the Australian meat game. He was the guy that got Aussie beef initially into Korea, and then he sold Australian beef to McDonald's for hamburgers in the United States, which was a bit of a Coles to Newcastle story. Richard's incredibly involved in the Zan McDonald Award as well. And when I was kind of thinking about what to talk to Emma today, I gave it to, he's a mate of mine, I gave him a ring, and I said, what is it about your inaugural winner that still stands out for you? And he said, what made you stand out for him was your energy, obviously, your enthusiasm, your genuine interest everywhere you went. And you, as he said, they expect you to go to half a dozen people, and you went to 30 plus. And the impact you had on everybody you met on that tour. And the tour, ladies and gentlemen, is in Australia and New Zealand, and they actually fly the winner and the entourage around in a very slick Pilatus aircraft, which is once again a company that was very close to Xander's heart. So It was a terrific thing to do. And in effect, Richard said that you were like the television detective Columbo. There was always one more thing that occurred to you to ask them, and the people where you went really responded to that because they knew that you got it and that you had it and you had a genuine interest to know more and more and more. And as you say, you're a good listener, but obviously you ask good questions too.
I'm not sure how to respond to that.
To say it's all true, Now, so you've got this terrific platform, you know these great people, they're very generous with their time, and you are building your own business, and things start to move quite fast, and you get various awards and citations, up to and including Beef Australia's pitch in the Paddock Prize in May this year. Tell everybody a little bit about that competition and how it went for you.
Yeah, cool. So Pitch in the Paddock, I think it was only the second time this year that it had been run, but they give 9 or 10 companies the opportunity to do a 3-minute pitch. So innovative startups in the beef industry, and I think it's one of the most stressful experiences I've ever had in my life. Because Shannon and I wanted to do it together because we founded this together. So trying to get the two of us to get everything we wanted to say across in 3 minutes was pretty difficult, but it was incredible. And again, it comes back to networking, like meeting the other companies that were there that participated in it. They put us through some training on how to deliver our pitch, but the judges and the network around that, it was an amazing opportunity, but very scary.
Well, I always reckon in Hollywood that you've got the time that it takes to get in a lift and go up 3 or 4 floors to sell your idea for a movie. So it's kind of a bit of a hothouse atmosphere for that sort of thing. And you had set yourself some goals for Beef Australia. Did you achieve those goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started 18 months ago with an idea, basically, and we were both still employed in other roles with other companies at that stage, and decided by Beef Week this year we wanted to be able to attend as Black Box. Anyway, we attended as a company, we had staff there as well, so we were very, very proud of that. But again, that came out of industry, and I think meeting that industry need that got us to that stage.
And where's Black Box at as we speak?
Yeah, sure. So we've grown. We're a team of 10 now. We've recently brought on our board of directors. So we're still in the beef industry. So for those that don't know, so Black Box is a cloud-based system that ingests the raw production data from right along the beef supply chain. So we work agnostically, pulling data from the crush side systems, feedlots, abattoirs, and link it together. But I think the beauty with what we do is what we then do with that data. So we link pieces of it together, show interactions between the different traits, and allow you to make selections, identify high performance, low performance, drill down on a specific trait that you want to focus on, so shortening calving interval, high performance in terms of growth, whatever it is, and push that back down the crush side.
And anecdotally, people told you, given you feedback about ideas that you've identified for them that have saved a big dough?
Yes, definitely. Particularly.
Or made them big dough. That would be another way of looking at it, but I suppose savings is it.
Yeah, I think, and it's having a way to be able to easily benchmark and identify areas within your business without having to spend 4 or 5 days on Excel. Like it's there, it's back in a dashboard. You can push it back down crush side. But certainly being able to identify those low performers so you can remove them out of your herd. And as we know, there's more and more pressure on us to be more efficient. So removing the low performers, if they don't achieve this ADG after we've weighed them 3 times, that type of thing. Or we might have a tight calving interval now, so we want to focus on weight at puberty. It allows you to, I guess, focus on more than one trait and also use historical data, but be able to forecast into the future and look at the next 12 months when cattle will be ready for sale, and even provide that type of information back to consultants, banks, to help.
And does this necessarily ring a bell with the big corporates or right down to mum and dad businesses?
Yeah, so we've got a mixture. So we work with large pastoral companies all the way down to, I think our smallest producers, 200 head. And basically we also work with people that have collected individual animal data for 10 years, right down to people that are starting to collect data now. So we're getting a lot of interest from industry now, to run workshops or speak at events purely around how do we start collecting data, what are the main pieces of data I can collect, and what decisions can I make from it. And there's a saying, like we always say, data's like garbage unless you know what you're going to do with it. So it's just trying to go through that process and work out, you don't have to collect 15 pieces of data on that animal this year. What do you want to focus on? Let's drill into that, and start.
And I guess it's not necessarily restricted to the beef game. This could roll right across a whole range of proteins and most parts of farming. Tell us how that could work and where you're heading next.
Yeah, sure. So I guess we started with beef because that's what we know, and we saw the opportunity there, but we're getting pushed by the sheep and lamb industry, so we're heading that way next year. We have had another number of other industries approach us as well. I think key focus initially is to get it right in beef and do it well, and we're at that stage now, so pushing into sheep next year.
Outstanding, excellent. And you're not all sitting in the same office looking at one another, are you? Tell us how you've flung your team around and how far flung they are.
Yeah, so we're a completely remote team. We all work from home. We're based regionally. Our developers are Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. I guess location hasn't been a factor for us. We've just found a team with the right values and the right skills and brought them together. Sometimes that's challenging when you can't just catch up face to face and discuss things, but it also offers big opportunities as well, because it doesn't matter where they are. We find the right skills, we bring them together. But we're certainly hoping, we've got staff members we still haven't met face to face down south, so hoping we can all get together in the new year.
It was a bit like that when I was at the AgC. There was a lot of people I never actually wanted to meet, and I can see that there's been a few people nodding around the room on that question of where you're located, and we've seen some spectacular examples of their work this morning, including our mates from Swarm Farm and data farming over here, Tim. There is no tyranny of distance really anymore, is there? It's just like a failure of imagination if you don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, well, generally in the beef industry, it was difficult to do things over Zoom, but it's just accepted now. We've learned how to deal with it, and we found different ways to communicate and run things over Zoom. But it's incredible what you can do with technology now. But certainly, I think the industry's become a lot more accepting of it.
Outstanding. It's pretty incredible what you can do when you come up with a good idea, ladies and gentlemen. Please thank Emma Black for her time on the couch. Anyway, that wasn't as bad as you thought, was it? Good on you. Thanks for that, Emma. And look, we're by a miracle of scheduling, we're right on time for our first panel discussion. And I will kind of move around a bit because we'll have to get a few other people up here onto the couch. So I'll just sort of slide over to the lectern again, and we will move on. I do hope that everybody who's watching this remotely is getting it as loud and clear as everybody is in the room here. And as I said, we are looking forward to getting some feedback from you in the course of the afternoon, and hopefully some really good questions. So, we wanted to have just a little bit of fun with this afternoon as well. It doesn't all need to be as serious as a heart attack. And somebody was fortunate enough in their